The Trans-Saharan Slave Trade, or the Arab slave trade. How much do we know about that? Why do we not talk about that? Why does it seem that the people who perpetrated those atrocities on the Africans seem to get a pass? How much do we know? And again, why do we seem to not focus on the atrocities done to the Africans? And yes, we know the history of the transatlantic slave trade all too well. There has been books, movies, discussions, courses on the transatlantic slave trade. But when it comes to the Trans-Sahara slave trade, there is not much. There seems to be crickets, silence. Well, today we're going to explore a bit. We're going to explore that subject a bit. We're going to look into it. Before the Europeans began exploiting Africans in the transatlantic slave trade, the roots of the slave trade began in East Africa. Arabs and others enslaved Africans and sold them across the extensive trade networks. This trade existed between the 17th century CE until the 1960s. That's right. Technically, it ended in the 1960s. However, actually, many people feel that it still goes on to this day. Human trafficking. By another name, slavery. Slavery, by another name, is still slavery. This slave trade has lasted for more than 1,000 years. There is really no accurate way to determine exactly how many black people were enslaved by the Arabs, but many believe the number is greater than 100 million souls, depending on who is telling the narrative. And as we know, numbers are always debated in favor of the person telling the story. And when it comes to the accurate number of the people actually who suffered from these atrocities during the Trans-Saharan slave trade, they always diminish the numbers. In other words, they never tell the truth. They lie. These kidnapped and enslaved people were used to do a variety of different jobs. Some were kept as domestic servants to maintain the home, cook, clean, and raise children. Some were soldiers, laborers, and others were concubines. Others were exploited for agricultural labor, all contributing to the overall wealth of the Arab countries that participated in the Sub-Saharan slave trade. And as stated earlier, we often hear so much about the transatlantic slave trade, but we hear very little of the Sub-Saharan slave trade. Many scholars believe that this slave trade was much worse than the transatlantic slave trade, and it certainly has gone on for a much longer period of time. And we ask on this channel, why do they or should they get a pass on the crimes that they've committed against humanity? Well, we say they shouldn't. And we feel that it is high time to put a spotlight on the atrocities that was done to these Africans. These people should not go without retribution. Unfortunately, this subject is taboo. We don't hear enough about the crimes of humanity that has been done against the Africans by the Arabs. It is as if that part of history did not even happen. And we are in the age of exposure, and these atrocities must be exposed, studied, and the perpetrators must be held accountable. As the discussion of reparations and being repaired are had, all who benefited has to pay their debt to the descendants and the victims of these crimes, many of whom are still alive today and are still being victimized. Could someone please tell me why is this? Why do these people get a pass? The Black Excellence and Abundance channel, where Black history is every day. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And always remember, thou art rich.